Imagine a world where a peace-loving, cross-country skiing introvert with socialist beliefs leads one of the most controversial tech companies in the world. Alex Karp, the founder of one of the world's most debated companies, Palantir, was raised by hippie parents. Karp's childhood was steeped in left-wing ideals, yet today he runs a company often criticized for its right-wing authoritarian tendencies. As a self-proclaimed peace activist, Karp firmly believes that creating the most lethal weapons is essential for peace.
I recently have gotten in trouble for saying, I'm a peace activist. I am a peace activist. I'm a peace activist because I want enormous growth in America and I want really deadly weapon systems. You want peace in the world? You have a lot of growth in America and you have really deadly weapon systems, and you tell your adversaries, you know what, I just might use them. I'm not even going to explain why I'll use them.
Karp's friendship with right-wing billionaire Peter Thiel seems surprising, yet it changed his life as they together founded Palantir. Unfortunately, he doesn't always receive recognition for Palantir's achievements.
Well, I'm very proud that there have been innumerable terror attacks that have been stopped in Palantir in Europe, and I would say in all modesty, if they were not stopped, you would have a very different political reality in the West. And that's just a fact. I love when I'm getting yelled at in cities in Europe. I'm like, keep yelling at me. The only reason why someone's not goose-stepping between me and you is my product. Say thank you.
Despite being dyslexic, Alex earned a PhD in philosophy and now lives in a secluded cabin in New Hampshire, far from the hustle of Silicon Valley. But Karp is not only characterized by being a shy introvert and practicing tai chi, his sharp tongue spares no one.
I love burning the short sellers. Like almost nothing makes a human happier than taking the lines of cocaine and away from these short sellers who are going short on a truly great American company, not just ours, but I just love pulling down great American companies so that they can pay for their coke. And the best thing that could happen to them is we will lead their coke dealers to their homes.
Apart from short sellers, he loves to tell the media about his competitors, who in his eyes often sell poetry and stories, and whose products only work in PowerPoint presentations.
Opposed to the alternative, which is that you buy some large language model, you party with it basically, and the next day you have a hangover. And again, for people just looking at this, what does it mean for Palantir? It means we are sitting on the only thing that actually creates quantifiable transformational value in an enterprise.
How does Alex reconcile all these conflicting beliefs? This is the fascinating and controversial story of Alex Karp. Alex Karp, born in Philadelphia in 1967, grew up in a unique family. His father was a clinical pediatrician and his mom was an artist. He described himself and his family as outsiders.
We had this weird family structure where my mom was in grad school as an artist, and everybody was an artist, so they were outside the norm. It was a heavily Jewish environment. My mom is Black. We were pro-Israel, and super erudite, heavily Jewish environment. Everything about my life was further outside the norm than I realized.
Karp's parents involved young Alex in progressive political activities like labor rights protests, instilling in him a deep sense of social justice and left-wing political beliefs. His weekends were filled with museum visits and cultural events, giving him a deep appreciation for art and history. From a young age, Karp struggled with dyslexia, making traditional learning environments challenging. However, it also gave him unique advantages.
Like many things, something I didn't want and was not overly forward about in public, which was my dyslexia, which I hid. So I was very good at certain things, and I would say still am, that other people are not as good at. I legitimately saw the world differently. My brain was structured differently than other people, and I was able to perform at a professional level in certain areas, even as a young kid.
Reflecting on his youth, you could argue that this formative period laid the groundwork for his nuanced worldview, and his ability to navigate and lead in complex environments, ultimately contributing to his success as the leader of Palantir, a company often seen as aligning with more right-wing and authoritarian values. After graduating from Haverford College in 1989, Alex Karp's academic journey was both unconventional and intense. He started by enrolling at Stanford Law School, thinking a law degree would help him make a difference. But he quickly realized law wasn't his passion.
Got to Stanford, and I owe Stanford a lot, but I kind of hated it. And I hated every aspect of law school, but it gave me a lot of time to read philosophy and talk to random people on the campus, including my buddy Peter. And then I realized this is not something I wanted to do.
Feeling unsatisfied with law school, Karp decided to follow his love for philosophy. He moved to Germany to pursue a PhD at the University of Frankfurt, studying under the famous philosopher Jürgen Habermas. Karp initially wanted to follow in Habermas's footsteps, but soon discovered that a full-time academic career wasn't for him. He enjoyed intellectual discussions, but realized he also had a talent for building and creating things. Karp saw that many brilliant academics struggled with practical skills needed in the real world. This realization made him aware of his own unique strengths. After earning his PhD, Karp decided to leave academia. He leveraged his network of wealthy individuals in Europe, which he had built during his academic years, to start the Cadman Group in London. His initial goal was simple: to make enough money to live comfortably in Berlin, enjoying philosophical discussions and a relaxed lifestyle. Alex Karp's relationship with Peter Thiel has been a crucial part of his life and career. They met at Stanford Law School, where their intense intellectual and ideological debates formed a strong bond. Thiel, a libertarian, was well known on campus for his libertarian principles, while Karp leaned towards socialist ideals. Despite their differences, or maybe because of them, they became close friends. With Peter Thiel publicly supporting Donald Trump, the differences are as visible today as ever before.
Your co-founder, Peter Thiel, was a big funder of Donald Trump when he was president. You yourself...
Yeah, and I called him an ass in public.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you said, I respect nothing about the dude.
Yeah, and then I was vulgar.
After Stanford, they went their separate ways for a while. Thiel joined a prestigious law firm, and Karp pursued his academic interests in Europe, earning a PhD from the University of Frankfurt. But their friendship endured, and they kept influencing each other's lives. In 2003, Thiel approached Karp with an idea that would change their lives. Thiel, already a successful co-founder of PayPal, saw the potential in Karp's philosophical and analytical skills.
He called me, and I'm very grateful to Peter, because honestly, I think there's exactly one person in the world that would have called me to co-found Palantir, and that was Peter. And Peter's like, hey, I've got this great idea. We're going to take the back end that we used at PayPal to stop cyber criminals, and we're going to turn it into a product, and we're going to sell it to the intelligence services, because obviously they could use the best software in the world. And do you want to co-found this?
Palantir Technologies started because of a big problem PayPal faced early on. PayPal was losing $10 million a month to fraud, which got so bad that Visa and MasterCard threatened to cut ties with them. To fix this, PayPal's CTO, Max Levchin, created a program called Igor. Igor scanned transactions and flagged suspicious ones for review. This problem not only solved PayPal's fraud problem, but also helped the FBI catch 2 Russian cybercriminals. This showed the power of data analytics in fighting cybercrime. Seeing this success, Peter Thiel, one of PayPal's co-founders, thought this technology could be used for more than just preventing fraud. He imagined a company that could help intelligence agencies fight terrorism and other security threats using data analytics. Palantir's main idea was to build a platform that could handle large amounts of data, use advanced analytics, and ensure strong data protection. This was crucial for intelligence and law enforcement agencies. Apart from Peter Thiel, Nathan Gettings, Joe Lonsdale, and Stephen Cohen were involved in founding Palantir. The team struggled to find a suitable CEO. They needed someone who could bridge the gap between Silicon Valley innovation and the stringent bureaucratic world of government clients. Alex's ability to engage with high-powered individuals in the defense and intelligence sectors, combined with his philosophical and somewhat unorthodox approach, made him an ideal leader for the company. Joe Lonsdale explains that the experiment with Alex as CEO was so successful that they decided to continue it.
And then there were a few other key people as co-founders, obviously Peter Thiel. We brought in Alex Karp. Alex was pretending to be the CEO at first for us because we needed an adult in the room, and then it turned out he was actually a good CEO. He's a philosopher before that, so pretty cool background. he had a lot of wisdom about people and institutions. The rest of us were computer scientists. And so that ended up mixing really well.
In its early years, Palantir focused on working with government agencies. Navigating the complex and often bureaucratic landscape of government contracts presented significant challenges for Palantir and its CEO, Alex Karp. Unlike the commercial tech world, where innovation and rapid adoption are often celebrated, working with government agencies required a different set of strategies and a high degree of perseverance. The U.S. defense establishment had a long-standing preference for dealing with a few large prime contractors like Lockheed Martin and IBM. These companies had entrenched relationships and were the go-to for new software platforms. This created a significant barrier for a new entrant like Palantir. One of the most dramatic actions Palantir took to ensure the adoption of effective products was to sue the U.S. government. As Karp explains, the lawsuit was not to force the U.S. to buy Palantir products, but to ensure they bought the best products.
We sued the government not to buy our product, but to ensure that people bought products that worked, because the most important thing, in my view, that can happen for the preservation of the West and its values is for the U.S. military to be by far the best in the world.
One of Palantir's most innovative strategies was to target end users directly, rather than going through the top brass at the Pentagon. Recognizing the importance of gaining grassroots support, Palantir offered free training and funding for graduate work to soldiers who would be using data in their deployments. This bottom-up approach created internal advocates for Palantir within the military, making it easier to build demand for their products from within. Nowadays, Palantir is widely used by the U.S. defense and its allies. Palantir has had a significant impact on military and intelligence operations. Their software has been crucial in various situations, from documenting war crimes in Ukraine to improving battlefield intelligence and planning. Alex is proud of their contribution, even if it means that Palantir is responsible for killing enemies.
I've built products I'm proud of, actually changed the course of history by stopping terror attacks and augmenting civil liberties, and has protected our men and women on the battlefield. And also have taken the lives of our enemies, and I don't think that's something to be ashamed of.
Raising capital for Palantir was anything but straightforward. Despite the innovative nature of the company's mission and technology, convincing VCs to invest in the early 2000s proved to be a difficult task. Alex recalls several memorable, albeit frustrating, meetings with potential investors.
We're at like the most famous VC, and like we're, in the last round, and they're and the most important partner just like spent his time doodling. My fantasy of it is he was doodling some erotic little picture that he was, fixated on. But, but in non-fairness to that person, I think if we had stood up and walked out, we're like, this, you guys are wasting our time, chances of them investing would have been much higher.
Apart from the challenging product and industry, not all investors completely agreed with the ethical decisions from the Palantir team. Instead of revenue optimization, they decided to sell to U.S. allies.
I mean, this was a huge issue with early investors. They were very unhappy when I started telling them, look, it's not a joke. We're not going to sell to China. We're not going to sell to Russia. We're not going to sell to affiliate countries. We are going to, and they're like, well, what about ABC country? And like, yeah, look, without going to every detail, people wondered, there were people inside Palantir who didn't think we should work with certain countries, and we decided to, but then there's a long list of countries we have not worked with.
Luckily, Peter Thiel was a true believer in Palantir's vision and backed that belief with substantial financial support. He invested a significant portion of his PayPal proceedings into the company, with figures estimated around $30 million out of his $55 million earnings. Around 2012, big data began to revolutionize industries beyond the public sector. Large corporations were starting to store massive amounts of data, creating an opportunity for Palantir to offer its expertise in data integration and analysis. Recognizing this shift, Karp and his team expanded Palantir's offerings to solve problems for non-governmental organizations. In the commercial market, they compete with many traditional software providers. According to Alex, these companies are used to selling bad products.
The assumptions that your products could be not robust, barely work, thin, add no value, that was a playbook from Silicon Valley onto the commercial space. That playbook has just completely failed.
A few successful use cases in the commercial sector are tackling fraud for major financial institutions like JP Morgan and helping Airbus ramp up their production of its new A350 jet. Alex loves to compete with the other AI players because he believes his products are that much better.
What I'm learning is, you can, there are just a lot of products out there that it's poetry. Like, you just get poetry. So, and people doing all sorts of PowerPoints. But if you show up to customers, I go all over America and I say, take all your best products, everything you've done, any vendor, and then compare it to what you can do in Palantir in 10 hours.
Just like their activity in defense, Alex believes it's crucial for the US and the West to stay ahead of the game so they can continue to live according to their superior standards.
The answer to that determines whether America and the West, which I view as a superior way of living because it's fairer, better, meritocratic, leads to free speech, allows for wealth creation, does that culture actually dominate and win? And we, by the way, have to get out of the apologizing for our culture thing. It's like, we are a better way of living and we have to be willing to fight for it.
Subscribe to House of Heroes to watch more inspiring stories that highlight the experiences of entrepreneurs, investors, and business leaders. Learn about growth, mental models, productivity, business models, investing, philanthropy, and technology. Tune in to House of Heroes and find your inspiration in the stories we tell.